It's time for OWC Radio. Tech Talk with Creatives. Conversations with host Serena Catania.
This is Serena Catania with OWC Radio, and I have two amazing guests on today because we're announcing something that I think you are all going to find to be incredibly wonderful. I have Terry Morgan, who's the co-founder of LumaTouch, and you all know LumaFusion, which we use to edit on our iPads when we're traveling, right, and other things. And Neil Barham's here from Filmic Pro, which I don't know how we can shoot without Filmic Pro these days. And you're both been very, very involved in the film industry your whole lives, one way or another. Terry is an editor and Neil is a filmmaker. And so we're announcing today that given the current restraints for people traveling, among other things, you are going to be starting a mobile creative summit. And you're making it available free worldwide. And I'm so excited I can't stand it. So who can tell us what that is and what it's all about?
Yeah, well, I'll start off and then Neil can jump in. We had reached out to many of our community in the mobile filmmaking community because so many of our customers had reported that they were out of work because most of what our customers have been doing is going out into the world as journalists or as filmmakers, and their jobs have just been canceled. So what we talked, Neil and I and some members at Filmic and Luma talked about what we can do to help our community. And one thing that we came up with is the fact that we are in a great position to be able to bring people together and to help people who are out of work in this industry to learn how to do mobile filmmaking and mobile editing. And so we decided to put on this event, and we reached out to our mobile communities, and we reached out to filmmakers, mobile journalists, producers, and asked if they would help us provide that information via these webinars for people for free. So there's so many people in the video community that are out of work due to COVID. There are people that used to be journalists, or they're still journalists, but they can't go out and shoot. There are people that shoot all sorts of things from weddings to events, and those have all been canceled. So we, Filmic and LumaTouch, got together and we're talking about how we could help our community. And one way that we decided we could help is to create a webcast where people could learn from each other and learn how to do mobile filmmaking and mobile editing, because this is a new way of working, and a lot of people were still using traditional media, which just is much more difficult when you're all on your own in your house and you can't leave, or in your backyard, wherever you are. But mobile allows you to do a one-man show and get really high-quality media out of that. So that's what we decided to do. So we reached out to our communities of mobile journalists, filmmakers, and just video producers, and asked them if they would be willing to speak and teach others about what they know about mobile creation. And in days, we had 70 people say a resounding yes, and everybody's very excited about it, and they're pretty exciting. I mean, I'm excited to watch it. There's these people that I've been dying to get to know and dying to know about, and they're going to be speaking at these events. And so they're starting April 17th on a Friday, and then we had so many speakers that we're doing it every Friday until we run out of speakers, or until it's done. So,
you have 70 speakers. That's 70 weeks. We're going to be doing this for a while. This is awesome. This is great.
2 sessions of 4 every week.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so it'll go on for a while, but they're completely free. So if you want to learn about mobile filmmaking from some of the best mobile filmmakers in the world, you can just tune in and listen for free. So
that's amazing. So talk to me about some of these speakers. And now, but before we get too much further, Neil, you guys are partnered together in this. How did that all come about? Obviously, you both work in the mobile space. I'm sure you're friends. Tell me about those initial conversations.
Sure. Well, the two companies go back a handful of years. Obviously, they're very simpatico. Shoot on Filmic, edit on Luma is a mantra that we adhere to, and a lot of people in the creative community adhere to as well. We met each other. I'm actually not even sure where initially, but certainly the trade show circuit, NAB and IBC. Became friends there. We're both located in Seattle. And so actually out of this friendship came the opportunity to share an office together. So that started a year ago, March of 2019. So now it's very easy for us to collaborate on things. And the community actually almost sort of like willed that into happening because so many of our users are Luma users and vice versa. So in servicing, listening to, responding to our community, we learned in depth about how much they were relying on Luma Fusion as a tool in the field. So there are a handful of things that we have subsequently tried to do together, and this is such a challenging time for people all over the world. And so we wanted to do something basically like selfless and give back. And I think it's a very hard time to think about, I don't know, I can't think of a better phrase than like crass commercialization, but that's not something that either of our companies are particularly interested in at this time. And so we basically, from the convenience of sharing an office, we really ought to do something, not so much for ourselves, but as Terry alluded to earlier, for a lot of people who are suddenly out of work. And so what I find most rewarding is that our creative community took the selfless initiative and ran with it. I think we didn't even have a list of 70 names at the outset. And the fact that within 2 or 3 days, we had a list of committed, interested, talented individuals of 70 people shows that not only almost everybody that we reached out to responded favorably, but they also recommended other people. Have you considered this person? Oh, they'd be fantastic. You should reach out to that person. And so the thing has sort of taken on a life of its own, and we haven't even gotten to the first episode yet. And that, I think, is something that both companies hope continues, and that from people watching the series, they will realize, hey, either I have something to contribute meaningful, and I should reach out and see if I could be a speaker on a future episode, or maybe they know of somebody who has a unique creative slant on the world, and a lot of people would benefit from that as well. So I think for both of us, this just feels like the right thing to do at this particular point in time. And information's always good, and free is always good. So we're thrilled about that.
I'm so proud of both of you, though, because this is a lot of work. I know you have help, but you're giving so much of your personal time to do this. And I can tell you firsthand too, and you don't just turn the computer on and start talking. There's a lot of production that goes into creating a live stream or even just a regular video for educational purposes. So it's wonderful. I just thank you for that. You want to talk about some of the tracks?
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about different people, like a mobile journalist. We wanted to talk to or about mobile filmmaking, and I know we want to talk about vlogging, because those are 3 very different ways of working with the equipment and different ways of working creatively. And we had some really great speakers in those 3 areas as well.
Yeah, so there's the whole mobile filmmaking aspect, vlogging, there's the documentary and features, journalism, storytelling. I love this storytelling for mobile and social media. And then your educators, mobile educators, is what I have in front of me here. But some of the names you have already wrangled. I mean, Glenn Mulcahy, that's wonderful, you know, and Justine, iJustine, everybody loves iJustine. Cassius
Yes.
Rayner,
Oh,
Richard Lackey. This is like a who's who of the mobile world. And I know you guys are really well connected, but I think it's awesome that you've gotten these people to commit to this. So how long will each seminar be? And you said 4 people per seminar, or how's that going to work?
yeah. Yeah, so each person, there'll be 4 per seminar, and there'll be 2 seminars a day, one in sort of the US time zone and one of them a European time zone. And there will be, each one will have 20 minutes to present their ideas and then 10 minutes for a Q&A. And I think Glenn and Elliot from Filmic and probably PhotoJoseph will be moderating and helping to take questions and get those questions answered for 10 minutes at the end of each person.
So these are not being set up like webinars. These are video on demand or live video at 2 times a day, one for the European. So it's live, and they can just tune in live, and you'll give everyone the link. That's awesome.
Right.
And then will they be available on demand after they go live as well?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
of course. Yeah.
So
I think there should be a really great record of this.
Yeah. So where's the platform for this? Where is it going? Is it on YouTube or?
It will be posted on YouTube. I think that we're using was it StreamYard, Neil?
Yep. Yeah, and it should actually publish to both Filmic and Luma's YouTube channel, Facebook channel as well. So there'll be numerous places to watch it on multiple Filmic and Luma channels on social media.
So how do you guys
we're trying to reach as broad a net as possible.
Absolutely, and I am here to help. I got a big mouth. I will spread the word. So how do you decide who does what in the mix between the two of you and your 2 teams? Who does what, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, we've both reached out to Glenn Mulcahy. So he is basically heading up this initiative. And so he's the one managing getting all the people set up and making sure that technically they are set up to do it and doing a dry run with them, like a dress rehearsal. And those will be recorded in case something goes wrong during the live session, that can be played instead. So he's working for both of us equally and doing that.
Yeah, and I think for your listeners who might not know who Glenn is, Glenn Mulcahy was the innovation technology lead at RTE, which is, I guess, Ireland's version of the BBC, the national broadcast channel. And he founded something called MojoCon, which turned into MojoFest, and members of both Luma and Filmic have been frequent presenters at those yearly events, and we were scheduled to go back. I think it was going to be in London this year, and the event was canceled. So both Terry and I know that Glenn is the ideal person to be leading this initiative because he's done something similar as part of MojoCon or MojoFest year in and year out. So he has direct relationships with a lot of the speakers. He teaches year-round on what the best mobile technologies are for people to, with a strong emphasis on journalism, but overall video storytelling, and frequently uses Filmic and Luma in the field and in his classes. So it was essentially like a no-brainer on who we wanted to reach out to, and Glenn was as enthusiastic about the idea as we are.
So do you want to give us any more names of people that are coming on? Do you have any thoughts about previewing for us some of the kinds of people who are coming on?
Cassius Rayner is a filmmaker. Actually, his father was an editor for Stanley Kubrick, so he grew up learning filmmaking at a very early age. He teaches underprivileged youth in the UK in and around London, and actually travels outside that to use mobile tools to share their story. And this is actually something that's very near and dear to Terry and my heart and the organizations collectively, and actually a lot of people are on the speaking list. But that's one of the wonderful things that mobile does in the 21st century that didn't exist prior, is it democratizes who has a voice in the world. And Cassius is as passionate of an advocate of bringing those tools to the underrepresented as almost anybody that I know. Also, as I guess it relates to COVID-19 and the stay-at-home initiatives, Cassius lives in London and has created a handful of stunning short videos of the city in a way that, nobody has ever seen in the modern era. A basically deserted, quiet, eerie, moody, and kind of introspective side of London. So I would encourage people to check out his work on social, and at least on Twitter, it's under the handle of @GoFilmIt. Richard Lackey, you mentioned as well. He's based in Dubai, a color grading specialist who has been enamored with what mobile has let him create as it pertains to higher end traditional tools like desktop color grading with DaVinci Resolve. And now he's basically created educational materials on how mobile is closing the gap and what you normally had to rely on expensive, tens of thousands of dollars of gear, you can now do for $50 or less. Let's see, you also mentioned Cielo as well. She is, I think, probably best described as maybe like a social media vlogging expert, but her creative skills extend into photography, where I know she's been featured in some of the Apple curated Shot on iPhone series, and some of the books that they put out that are a collection of the year's best work, and teaches mobile video to some of the technology companies in and around the Bay Area where she's based. And then iJustine might be the most popular member of the first 2 weeks of programming, whose work community stands for itself. And she's certainly a social media advocate, with almost no peers in that regard. So that would be, I guess, half of the first weeks of programming. Actually, let me just cue it up for you, Terry. Can you tell us a bit about Angelo and Vanessa?
Yes. Angelo is a filmmaker who has traveled. He spent a year traveling the globe looking for communities that were going to disappear within the next 30 years. So he spent 300 days. He went to 30 communities around the world with just what he could carry on his back in a backpack. And so he would go to these communities, shoot and edit. Sometimes he'd be editing out of a tent. I have some images of him editing with a bunch of reindeer. And then he would get it all finished. And when he'd stop on his way to the next place, he'd go to a city with internet, upload his finished piece, and then move on. So he spent a year doing that, and he just has some fantastic stories to tell about his challenges and how he solved them. He's just a great guy as well. He's very interested in the mobile world. And then we have Vanessa Fox, one of my personal favorites. She's an experimental filmmaker who uses only mobile, and her dedication to experimental film is just second to none. She does it for the love of doing experimental film. She's not doing it to get likes or to get views. She's just doing it because she loves it, and I absolutely love to watch her channel and see what she's coming up with. It's just beautiful work. And let's see who else we have. PhotoJoseph, who has done, well, in his own right, he's his own personality online. He has his whole PhotoJoseph channel, and he does a lot of tutorials and a lot of speaking about different cameras and lenses. And it is amazing to see I mean, it really is a democratization of stories. And we've been telling stories prior to television. We've been telling verbal stories to one another forever. And then when TV came along, and all of a sudden you had to have professional equipment to be able to tell a story that a lot of people would want to hear. And now we're kind of getting back to that. Well, the quality has caught up, and now an average person can tell their story to thousands of people, and it is heartwarming to me. I love it, and I love the kids that are out there. Just it reminds me of what life is like when you're young, and how you see the world, and just to see that they have the tools to do that and express themselves is really cool.
The one thing I wanted to say to both of you is really to thank you for making this so accessible, because I believe that we as content creators, we as media, we as journalists, we as storytellers have an obligation to tell those stories in the world. And anything that you are doing, and both of your companies are constantly doing something to advance that in the world. It's really important, especially now when things are tough and people need reassurances. They need to know that they're important, that their stories are important. And I think that you're giving us all tools to make us better at what we do.
Hollywood has been a global force for 100 years or more, but a lot of people are speculating on what society and culture is going to look like on the other side of the pandemic. Will people go to movie theaters? Will the industry be the same as it was? Or will it go away completely? I have no idea on any of those. But I think that the world is desperate for authentic stories, and that is an area where mobile, I think, has actually outpaced Hollywood of late, which has predominantly become the domain of comic book movies that translate well into international box office, but don't actually tell, in most cases, especially resonant stories about how people have to live their life and interact with other people and the challenges that they face. And so in the absence of that, a lot of people are creating those stories on the tools that they have in their home, in their back pocket, in the backpack, in the case of Angelo. And these are profound, meaningful stories. The series that Angelo created with the help of Luma is one of my favorite things that I've ever seen. And I think it's haunting and evocative and thought-provoking. And so the gap between what was considered professional broadcast in the domain of either television or Hollywood and what is a credible top-tier story, I think has never been smaller. And I think in a matter of 6 to 18 months, whenever we come through this, the gap is even going to be smaller still. So now is really an ideal time to learn the tools and then empower your own voice to be a storyteller for a new generation.
We took Smartphone Studio here to Rancho Bernardo in San Diego area, and we were teaching elementary and middle school kids. And it is amazing how they just jump on those computers. They have no fear. They have no fear. In large part because of what you guys have all created. And I do want to throw something in for millennials too, because I love them. They get a bad rap, but they have a different way of communicating than the older generation does. And I really, I've mentored a few of them, and I deal with them a lot on crews, and I just got to put that in there for them, because I think they're awesome. So everything from the little tykes that are just in elementary school all the way up to even the older generation. I think what you're giving us with mobile filmmaking allows us to work anywhere in the world, no matter how old you are. The physical restrictions are being eliminated. For example, I don't have to walk around carrying 75 pounds of equipment in backpacks and on my shoulder. I've got these small little A cam and B cam 11 Pros from iPhone, and what comes out of that is amazing. So anyway, I interrupted your flow, but You got me going, Neil.
Well, great. And let's talk about two more great educators that are in the
Okay.
first two sessions, and this would be PhotoJoseph and Henny the Bizness. And Terry, why don't you tell us more about them?
Well, I can tell you a little about PhotoJoseph. He is a photographer, filmmaker, YouTuber, content producer, and an all-around good guy as well. He represents a lot of different brands in cameras and lenses, and he is also the tutorial maker now for Luma Touch. So he has done our first set of 20 tutorials and has 40 more coming. And so he's a great person to talk about at least the post-production side of mobile filmmaking. And then Henny the Bizness is also a
Henny
vlogger.
was at NAB
I don't
with
know.
you.
Yeah,
He's
you've
great.
interviewed.
You know what
He
I
is
remember about
great.
him? He told me something that I've never forgotten. He said he realized that he could do rap music and still have his 9-year-old, then 9-year-old son listen in. That you didn't have to be negative, and you could do the kind of music he likes to do and kids could access it. Anyway, he's awesome. So is he going to be one of the trainers?
Yes, he will be one of the speakers, and he's very accomplished. I think he's on the Grammy board. He's won several awards for music, but he's also a great communicator and a great vlogger. So we're excited again to be working with him. He was with us last year at NAB, and we just found him just such a delightful personality to learn from. So that's just our first week. So
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Well, what do you consider your biggest challenge with this?
Well, I think, so far everything has been going really well, but I think as we'll have to do a dress run with each person and we'll record that. And I think we don't know what technical challenges we'll be faced with at the last minute, but we have a team, that's ready to fix those. So I think it's just going to be a great lot of fun to do.
So the format is going to be, you're going to record, these people are going to record video. Are you going to do a Skype call with them, kind of like what I'm doing with you now?
Yes, I think, well, maybe Neil can speak to that.
The format will look somewhat similar, but StreamYard will be a slightly different platform than Skype and allow for a little bit more of interactivity. So Glenn is going to exist as a moderator, at least initially to oversee the first session.
Nice.
So he will introduce each of the speakers, and they'll take over the session for about 20 minutes. They'll be able to have it interactive with video elements that they have created. And so they can talk about a film that they shot while also referencing it and showing it to the viewers, possibly pausing on a frame to talk about how they achieved a particular shot or what the effect was that they were going after. The whole time this is running, viewers will be able to contribute their comments on whatever platform they're watching on. They're all going to be consolidated into the back end of StreamYard, and there, Filmic and Luma are each contributing some very capable, technologically savvy employees that are going to be handpicking some of the best questions and prompting the speakers at the end of the session to kick off the Q&A. So while the series will be available VOD after the fact, I think to get the most value out of it and make it as interactive as possible, if you can watch live, please do so and contribute your questions into the forum.
It's really like sitting in class from your home, which a lot of us are doing, now that the schools and universities are closed down. So it's the norm.
Wave of the future.
Yeah, it really is. It makes you feel connected. I mean, we're sitting in completely different cities and different parts of the of the country, but I feel connected because we're looking at each other at least, and we're all very visual people. So this is launching April 17th, correct?
That will be our first day, yes.
Oh, you guys have a lot of work to do from now to then. You'll get it done though. You're awesome. I know you'll get it done. I'm really looking forward to it. So where do people go to see this, and how can they find some information out ahead of time?
I think
any of our social media channels, I think, will carry the information and will all be points of entry into the actual live webinars as well.
So, Terry, can you tell me where people go on social to find LumaTouch?
We are at we're at LumaTouch on Twitter, and you can find us. You can find a user group on Facebook for LumaTouch, just by searching for LumaTouch, and our YouTube channel, of course. It's all just Luma. Just search for LumaTouch, you'll find us. So,
and Neil, same with Filmmaker. Yeah, same with Filmmaker Pro, right?
Yeah.
FILMIC.
Yeah, pretty similar. Pro. Yep. So facebook.com/Filmic Pro, and on Twitter at Filmic Pro, and then ever so slightly frustratingly on Instagram at Filmic Apps.
Come on, IGTV, the sky's the limit, right? So the name of this is the Mobile Creator Summit, right? So if people want to find this, they can Google Mobile Creator Summit, and as things start populating, they can see the schedule. And but I'd like to tell everybody to be prepared on April 17th to join live.
I would encourage your listeners to follow both Luma and Filmic on social media channels immediately prior to basically Googling Mobile Creator Summit. So following our social channels.
Right. Yes, we've been creating this, putting this together for 2 weeks as fast as we can. We're meeting daily on it, and so things are moving quickly, and they will be ready by April 17th, but they're not all put together yet. So
I am not worried about it. I know this is going to be awesome. If the two of you are behind it, it's going to be awesome, and I know you have great teams, and so I want to say thank you to Terry Morgan and Neil Barham and all of your efforts on behalf of the Mobile Creative Summit, and tell people to go to all of your social media channels and stay tuned, because April 17th, this is going to launch and it's going to be awesome. So we need to all be there, and we'll be able to ask questions and listen in and learn a lot, and it's free and available worldwide. So thank you both for taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy. Scheduling the two of you together is difficult to do, and I appreciate it. So I wish you the best, and I'll be there with you on the 17th. I'll be in the audience.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having us on and allowing us to tell everybody about this.
That's great. That's great.
Greatly appreciate it, and wonderful being with you again.